In American schools, students rush to buses and after-school programs. But in Amish one-room schoolhouses, the real education is just beginning. What happens next reveals a system most people never see. School bell. The school bell hangs outside a white one-room building in Lancaster County. When it rings at 3:30 inches the afternoon, 30 students stand from wooden desks worn smooth by generations of hands. They gather lunch pails and line up by the door. Some will walk home along dirt roads. Others will ride scooters or small pony carts. The teacher watches from the doorway as they disappear into fields and farmland. Tomorrow morning at 8:30, that same bell will call them back. Inside walls. Inside these schoolhouses, 8 grades share a single room. Younger children sit near the front in smaller desks. 8th graders occupy the back rows. A wood stove or coal furnace stands in the corner. The teacher, usually an unmarried Amish woman between 18 and 22 years old, arrives early each morning to heat the building before students appear. She has an 8th grade education herself, chosen by a local school board of fathers for her academic ability and commitment to Amish values. There are approximately 300 such schools across Lancaster County alone. When enrollment reaches 40 students, the community builds another schoolhouse. Each building stays within walking distance of the families it serves. Subjects taught. The day begins at 8:30 with a Bible passage, the Lord's Prayer, and 3 hymns sung in German. Then students check the chalkboard for assignments. The curriculum emphasizes reading, writing, arithmetic, spelling, grammar, and penmanship. Geography and history appear in the schedule, along with some health education. German language instruction runs throughout the years since Pennsylvania Dutch is spoken at home, but English is needed for business. Science receives limited attention. The Amish avoid teaching evolution, preferring factual knowledge tied to practical use. Music means hymn singing, not instrumental performance. Art takes the form of penmanship practice and occasional seasonal decorations. Physical education happens naturally during recess and farm chores at home. Textbooks come from publishers like Pathway and Rod and Staff, chosen specifically because they align with Amish values and avoid modern secular influences that might pull children toward individualism or worldly thinking. Student teachers. In a one-room schoolhouse, the teacher cannot stand at every desk simultaneously. So older students become teachers themselves. An 8th grader checks a 1st grader's arithmetic. A 6th grader listens to a 3rd grader read aloud. A 7th grader helps a 2nd grader with spelling words. This system serves 2 purposes. It allows the single teacher to manage 30 students across 8 grade levels, but it also trains older children in patience, responsibility, and the art of explaining concepts clearly. By the time a student reaches 8th grade, they have spent years watching the teacher manage a classroom. They understand how lessons are structured. They know how to correct mistakes without discouragement. They have practiced breaking down problems into simple steps. This peer teaching model reinforces academic material for older students while giving younger ones personal attention. It builds community bonds across age groups and teaches children that learning is not a competitive individual achievement, but a shared responsibility within the group. Not a janitor. Amish schools operate without janitors, cafeteria workers, or administrative staff. The students and teacher maintain the building themselves. Each day, children receive assigned chores. Someone brings in firewood for the stove. Another sweeps the floor. A student wipes down desks. Others empty trash cans or clean chalkboards. Before lunch at 11:30, students wash their hands at a simple basin. After eating, they sweep crumbs from the floor and wipe their desk surfaces clean. During recess at 10 and again after lunch, students sharpen pencils, fetch water, and use the outhouse. These duties rotate so every child learns every task. The work is not punishment, it is preparation. These chores mirror the responsibilities waiting at home and later in adult life. An Amish farmer does not hire someone to clean his barn. An Amish mother does not pay someone to sweep her kitchen. Children who learn to maintain their schoolhouse are learning to maintain their future homes and businesses. The school building itself becomes a training ground for self-sufficiency. By the time a student graduates 8th grade, they have spent years practicing the daily maintenance that keeps a community functioning without dependence on outside systems or hired labor. Final grade, 8th grade, marks the end of formal education in Amish communities. Students typically reach this level between ages 13 and 15. When the school year ends in mid-May, 8th graders do not receive diplomas or attend graduation ceremonies in the way public schools celebrate. They simply finish their final assignments, help clean the schoolhouse for summer, and do not return in the fall. This practice has deep roots. Until the 1930s, most Amish children attended public schools alongside non-Amish neighbors. But in 1937, East Lampeter Township in Lancaster County closed its one-room rural schools in favor of large, consolidated modern buildings. The Amish resisted. They opposed mandatory attendance beyond 8th grade, believing high school education was unnecessary for agricultural life and dangerous to community values. Some Amish parents faced jail time for refusing to send their children to high school. The conflict reached the Supreme Court. In 1972, Wisconsin versus Yoder ruled that Amish families could not be forced into compulsory high school education based on religious freedom. Chief Justice Berger wrote that the Amish are not opposed to education itself, only to conventional formal education during adolescence when religious development is most crucial. The ruling established 8th grade as the legal stopping point for Amish formal schooling across the United States. After graduation, when formal schooling ends, a different kind of education begins immediately. The Amish see classroom learning as only half the knowledge required to function as an adult. They call the next phase vocational training, though it resembles what previous generations called apprenticeship. Most Amish communities require students to attend vocational school once a week after 8th grade. This is not a building with classrooms. It is structured learning by doing, supervised by parents and experienced community members. The shift happens without ceremony. A boy who finished 8th grade in May begins working full days on his father's farm or in his woodworking shop by June. A girl transitions to learning advanced homemaking skills, food preservation, quilting, and managing household operations at a scale that feeds large families and prepares for community events. The once-a-week vocational sessions provide formal structure to this hands-on training. Students gather to discuss farming techniques, business practices, or homemaking challenges. They learn record keeping, basic accounting for farm income, animal husbandry, crop rotation, and the practical mathematics needed to measure lumber, calculate fabric for quilts, or estimate harvest yields. This is not casual observation. It is deliberate instruction in the skills their community considers essential for independent adult life, delivered through demonstration and practice rather than textbooks and tests. Farm classroom. The farm becomes the primary classroom for most Amish young people after 8th grade. Boys learn plowing, planting, and harvesting under their father's supervision. They study soil quality by touch and observation, understanding when soil is too wet to work or ready for planting. They learn to read weather patterns, not from books, but from watching the sky and understanding seasonal signs that indicate coming rain or frost. They master the care of draft horses, understanding which animals work well together and how to harness a 6-horse team for heavy field work. Morning feeding routines, hoof care, and recognizing signs of illness in livestock become daily responsibilities. Crop rotation principles make sense through practice, seeing firsthand how alternating corn and alfalfa restores soil nutrients. Pest management without chemicals requires observation and timing, knowing when to handpick beetles or when to plant companion crops that naturally deter insects. Timing of harvest becomes instinctive after watching wheat fields change color or testing corn kernels for proper moisture content. Equipment repair using basic tools and improvisation teaches problem solving when a plow blade breaks during spring planting. Barn maintenance, fence building, and woodlot management round out the agricultural education. Girls learn large-scale cooking, baking bread in quantities that feed a family of 10 or 12. They preserve hundreds of jars of vegetables, fruits, and meats each harvest season, understanding processing times and safe canning methods passed down through generations. Quilting requires mathematical precision in cutting fabric pieces and assembling complex patterns where measurements must be exact or the entire design fails. Garden management means planning succession planting so fresh vegetables appear throughout the growing season. Poultry care includes understanding laying cycles, recognizing egg binding in hens, and processing chickens for meat. Dairy work often falls under their responsibility, from milking cows by hand to separating cream and churning butter. Both boys and girls learn financial management by watching parents handle farm income, pay bills, and make purchasing decisions. They understand barter and trade within the community, knowing the value of a day's labor or a bushel of produce. They see how a household operates without electricity, managing food storage in root cellars, doing laundry with hand-cranked wringers, and maintaining kerosene lamps for evening light. This education has no grades, no tests, and no graduation ceremony. Competence is measured by results. Can you plow a straight furrow without wandering? Can you bake bread that rises properly and feeds your family? Can you manage a harvest crew during the busiest weeks of summer? Trade apprentice. Not all Amish young people become farmers. Many learn trades through formal apprenticeships that begin after 8th grade. Carpentry shops, furniture makers, blacksmiths, harness makers, and buggy builders take on young apprentices who work alongside experienced craftsmen for several years. A 4-year-old apprentice might spend the first year sweeping floors, organizing tools, and watching the master work. Gradually, they receive simple tasks: sanding wood, mixing finishes, holding pieces steady during assembly. By the second year, they operate basic tools under supervision. They learn to measure twice and cut once, understanding that wood cannot be put back once it is removed. They study wood grain, recognizing how oak splits differently than maple, and why certain joints hold better in cherry than pine. Structural integrity becomes second nature as they see which connections bear weight and which ones fail under stress. Amish furniture and cabinetry have gained a reputation for quality craftsmanship precisely because this apprenticeship system produces workers who understand their materials at a deep level. A young person who spends 3 years learning to build furniture by hand develops skills that no classroom textbook could teach. They understand how humidity affects wood movement, why drawers stick in summer but slide smoothly in winter, and how to account for seasonal expansion in their joinery. The same applies to blacksmithing, where apprentices learn to read metal color by heat, understanding when iron is ready to forge by the shade of red it shows. They feel the rhythm of hammer strikes needed to shape metal without cracking it. They learn which coals burn hottest and how to maintain forge temperature throughout a long workday. Harness makers teach leatherwork, stitching techniques, and hardware assembly. Apprentices understand which thread works for which application, how to punch holes at precise spacing, and why certain leather treatments prevent cracking under constant use. Each trade has master craftsmen who pass knowledge to the next generation through demonstration and correction. Mistakes are expected and corrected on the spot. An apprentice learns not just the mechanical skills of a trade, but the work ethic, attention to detail, and problem-solving approach that defines Amish craftsmanship. Many Amish businesses thrive because their workers receive this intensive hands-on training starting at age 14, building skills that take years to develop and cannot be rushed through formal coursework. Real education. The Amish make a clear distinction between education and schooling. Schooling happens in the one-room building with textbooks and chalkboards. Education continues throughout life. From the Amish perspective, formal schooling beyond 8th grade offers diminishing returns for their way of life. High school courses in abstract mathematics, literary analysis, or advanced sciences do not prepare someone to manage a farm, run a carpentry business, or maintain a household without modern conveniences. The Amish value practical knowledge and skills that serve their community directly. Their education system produces young adults who can read contracts, calculate business expenses, write clearly, and communicate in 2 languages. They understand basic history and geography. They have strong arithmetic skills and practical geometry from building projects. But most importantly, they possess extensive hands-on knowledge in agriculture, trades, or homemaking that allows them to function independently within their community. Studies of Amish schools have found that students often score well on standardized tests in basic subjects despite stopping at 8th grade. But the Amish themselves do not measure success by test scores. They measure it by whether young people grow into capable, self-sufficient adults who contribute to community life, maintain their faith, and successfully raise the next generation. A young man who can manage a 200-acre farm, maintain equipment, rotate crops for maximum yield, and support a family without debt represents educational success in Amish terms. A young woman who can preserve a year's worth of food, manage a household budget, teach her children, and contribute to community welfare demonstrates the competence their system values. Some Amish business people take correspondence courses or attend specialized seminars in accounting or business management when needed. the emphasis remains on usefulness. If knowledge serves a practical purpose in Amish life, they pursue it. If it does not, they see no reason to spend time on it. This explains why Amish youth might learn advanced woodworking mathematics but skip algebra, or master veterinary skills through practice but never study biology in a textbook. Education, from this viewpoint, is not about accumulating credentials but about becoming competent. It is not about knowing facts for their own sake,